Chelsea 3, Club America nil. It's like 3 a.m. here. I'm not going to get too excited. And obviously, it's only pre-season, but that has confirmed to me that Chelsea are winning the Premier League, obviously. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to digest, so we're going to go into what we learned from that game. And there was a lot to learn. There was a lot more to be positive about. More importantly, you've got players looking more suited to the system. And one of those has to be new signing, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who looked like he understood Maresca's system, which is quite natural. Obviously, he's worked with the manager for a year at Leicester. And the amount that he was underlapping Raheem Sterling, actually causing the goal with his cross to Mark Gui. Goo! I don't know. Either way, I like Gui. He looks alright. But he managed to get a header away from Dewsbury Hall, but he managed to have another chance that he manufactured for the striker. He probably could have bagged one or two. That was kind of the story of the game, as it has been for Chelsea for a couple of years now, in that it should have been more Chelsea winning 3-0, but it could have been 7 or 8. I don't even think that's an exaggeration. But there were a number of performances I did really enjoy, and one definitely was Romeo Lavia. Now, Romeo Lavia is, despite not being a new signing, he's certainly someone that feels as such. We did not see Romeo Lavia last season, despite being bought for £60 million. We saw a couple minutes against Palace. That was it. That was his season. And he was showing why he's a £60 million player today. I know it's Club America. I know it's pre-season friendly, but we know the quality that he brings. When he was at Southampton, I remember a game he played against Arsenal, and seeing how press resistant he was, seeing how comfortable he was, taking the ball on the half turn, slowing tempo down. Those are all things we were seeing again today, and he's someone that I'm really excited to look to the future. Again, in that category, has to be Christopher Nkunku, and he was again starring today, and he started in a lot of pre-seasons. In fact, he was back in last pre-season, he was back in this pre-season, and we didn't get to see him much last season, injured constantly throughout. However, even then, he managed to bag a few goals, and you barely even saw him. So I'm excited to see more of him next season, and goals is certainly something he helps bring to us. A bit more clinical in front of a goal, it seems, than the majority of our other players, and that's key in our attack. That's definitely something we're missing. We're missing that potency. That's why a link to someone like an Aussie man does seem to ignite a real feeling of attraction as a fan. It's something that we definitely need to address and haven't had for a number of years. Even winning Champions Leagues, the story of us winning that Champions League in 2021 was that it should have been more. City in the final, and Pulisic is missing chances on the counter, Werner's missing chances, that could have been 2 or 3-0, should have been 2 or 3-0. Real Madrid at the Bridge, 2-0, brilliant game, great memories. It should have been 4 or 5-0 that game. That has been the story for Chelsea for a while now. So yeah, hopefully something Christopher Nkunku can bring to us next season that we'll see far more prevalently than we did last, obviously, with him being out for the majority of it. A lot's been made, actually, of Enzo Maresca in terms of how Pep he is. As I've said, he looks like Pep. We're going to pretend he's Pep. But a lot of that is the inverting of fullbacks. Now, Reece has kind of done that role the past 2 games. We haven't done so great. Not that I think Reece has been particularly bad in those performances. But anyway, today, it wasn't Reece's turn. It was Malagusto's turn. Malagusto at left back. Yes, you can play Malagusto and Reece. And that's nice to know. That gives us options. Because we know Cucurella can invert. He had a great Euros anyway, but he inverted very well the back end of the last season for us. Actually, the only time we were inverting that run of games where we started to do very well. And Cucurella was at the epicenter of that, in that role. So we've got the option there now of not just having Cucurella there, but also Gusto, because I actually thought he really shone there, and it meant that when he went into midfield, our back 3 became Badiashile on the left, Tosin in the middle, and Reece James on the right. Now, Reece has played there a little bit in the past. I remember Dave kind of playing in the wing-back role and Reece being the one behind. Sometimes they'd rotate, but it looked very comfortable in my eyes. And someone who definitely looked very comfortable was Tosin. I thought he looked so calm on the ball. Some of his passing, very slick, direct, not long ball, but very much on the ground, calm centre-back despite his size, because a lot of the time, I don't know, sometimes taller players can look a bit more clunky, but he doesn't look that in the slightest. We also saw the return of Enzo, not the manager, the player. We saw Enzo come on for minutes in the second half. Second half was a lot more boring basically. The second half was more boring. As more subs came on, the game just sort of petered out to a degree. But Nkunku, a bit of magic, brilliant dribble, very Hazard-like to be honest, very Eden Hazard-like from Nkunku to win that second penalty. And Lavia made a good run to win the first penalty. In fact, yeah, we had Eden Hazards all over the pitch basically. But yeah, second half, Enzo came on, Fofana came on, so seems like the end of that scenario. Everyone can just move on now. As for negatives, and you don't want to get negative, but obviously in terms of what we can learn from pre-season, what we can take, you can't put too much weight on it naturally, because look at last season in the pre-season, we looked brilliant. Everything was going swimmingly, and we started the season absolutely crap. So I don't think too much should be read into it, but obviously Maresca's trying things. Obviously they're getting fitness levels up. And from what they were trying in previous games against Celtic, and Wrexham, we were getting exploited a lot on the counter. And now, the way that Club America were kind of playing, we were countering more, if anything. So I didn't think it really tested some things that need to be tested. We need to see solutions to problems that maybe could appear, that we've seen appear in previous games, but weren't so tested today. So pre-season will be more interesting to iron out those creases, or finding out if those creases are very much gaping holes in our defence like they were against Celtic. But in terms of going forward and everything, I was very happy in that regard. And something I do think is very apparent to me, if I'm completely honest, particularly because he wasn't at the Euros, nor a Copa America, obviously wasn't a Copa America, but I don't think Enzo Maresca and Ben Chilwell will be working together very long. I know it seems apparent from what Fabrizio says, Conor Gallagher certainly won't be. Trevor Chalobah certainly won't be. I think Ben Chilwell's days are looking numbered at Chelsea. I don't think he sees him as a first-team option at all, but even as a backup or a sub, it feels like it was kind of last call of order, the fact that Chilwell came on because Gusto had to come off. Hopefully it's just a precaution that Ben will be another injury. We're done with injuries, aren't we, guys? No more fucking injuries, alright? But Chilwell, for me, just seems like someone who's not going to be suited to this football at all. Even some of the words Maresca's used, we're talking about Ben Chilwell in terms of finding a position for him. Now, I think we all know Ben Chilwell's best position. It's left wing back, isn't it? It's left wing back in a 5 because he won the fucking Champions League there. We know that's where he's at his best. We know that he's lost a lot of his athletic ability with that ACL injury, and that's been really unfortunate. It's obviously damaged his confidence in the last few years too, because he's a bit less of a threat going forward, really, to be honest, in the box. But realistically, that's always for me been where Ben Chilwell was at his best. He's better in a 5 than he is a 4. Still was okay at a 4, but obviously not quite the same player, athlete-wise, since his ACL injury, and not perhaps comfortable enough in possession for someone like a Maresca, where he's going to invert and do that kind of job. That's not something I see Chilwell doing. So at the moment, for me, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next casualty at Chelsea in terms of someone who's been there a while and is to go. Anyway, there's not too much we can really take. Like I said, pre-season is a time to be getting fitness up. It's to be increasing your global branding, realistically. These guys are flying left, right and rhubarb all over the gaff in America in order to increase Chelsea's global standing, and that's the majority of what pre-season's about to an extent. If it was all about fitness or whatever, they'd be in a little camp not far from Cobham, and that would be that. So it's good for seeing these ideas flourish, or start to flourish, or people starting to understand the system far more, and time on the training ground will do that, obviously. And fitness levels are increasing. People are getting minutes. They're getting rid of the beers. They might have had a couple beers, enjoyed a couple beers, not with any chance, hey Enzo, just beers. But yeah, that's essentially what it is, because I did feel like people were losing their absolute minds with what was going on against Celtic. Celtic are in they're in 8 pre-season games in. We're flying left, right and rhubarb. Second game, half the squad's missing, learning a new system. Chill out, guys, alright? They were manufacturing some good chances. Defensively, things definitely looked a mess, particularly on a player like Wesley Fofana, who hasn't kicked the ball in over a year. So, yeah, let's chill out. And equally with today, let's chill out. I was taking the piss, say we're going to win the league this season. I don't think we'll be that high. Maybe. no fucking chance we're winning the league, I'm not going to lie. But things look good today, and I'm intrigued to see how this develops. If the players really buy in to Enzo Maresca and his way of playing, we might just have a Pep on our hands. And, Pep didn't win the league in his first year. In fact, he came 4th. Even got battered by Everton 4-0. So, it wasn't plain sailing. But after that, a little horse, as Mourinho once said about us. So, we'll be there, guys. We'll be there. We just need to give it a bit of patience in that regard. I know it's hard to give patience because what's been on the pitch the last few years has not been good enough under this ownership. I fully get all the frustration. I just think I'm seeing a lot of toxicity at the moment, particularly online. But even when I chat to my dad, he can kind of feel it in that regard, because everyone's almost waiting with their pitchforks towards these owners. I kind of think, I get it, but for the benefit of our club, let's give this dude a chance. We all know it's a risky appointment, but we all want it to work out, and let's hope as much as those players buy in, we buy in as well, and we can really make something special here. So I'm excited for the new season. I'm excited for these new players that are actually signed a year ago but have just been injured all year. I'm excited for the new players in your Dewsbury Halls, your Tosins, and whoever may follow in through that door. And I'm excited for the new Enzo Maresca Chelsea and see how that goes. So yeah, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe. All that stuff helps me out a lot, by the way. And if you don't, Bodie's going to sell you if you don't like this video. So, yeah, do that. Anyway, in a bit, guys, up the Chelsea.